Hi, I'm April.
And I'm Bailey.
We are real-life friends and neighbors.
Together we run a business called Passionist Designs.
Our favorite part of our job is being in people's homes and hearing their stories. As we became inspired by these stories, we wanted to share them with others. That's where the Nestled podcast was born.
So join us each week as we are encouraged to pursue our own design decisions based on what we love instead of what fills our Instagram feed. Every home has a story, and we can't wait to hear yours. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back.
Hey, guys. It's Thursday. We're glad you came a day late.
We arrived.
We have arrived.
So, one way or another, we got it out to you. Okay, so let's just jump right in with what we're thankful for this week.
This week, I am thankful for my new felt letter. So I'm aware that letterboards have been in for a while and that I may be a little behind this curve, and I don't care because I've wanted one for a while, and every time I went to Hobby Lobby, they weren't 50% off and I wasn't paying full price for it. But they were 50% off when we were shopping for a client the other day, and I just went ahead and bought one, even though I was like, I don't care if they're out next week because I have not had anything that I've been like doing verses or inspirational things in a while, and I've missed it, so I'm excited about it.
And you got one of the green ones too, which is like a real throwback.
Yeah, well, so. I like the green because it feels like this is original.
Right.
But it's not.
Right. I'm thankful for this week. I have 2 garlands that came from Target's Opal House line, which I feel like I talk about every week right now. But I actually purchased these a few weeks ago. I just didn't get them hung up right away.
Yeah.
And I bought them for different places in my house, but then we decided not to mount our TV when we rearranged our living room, and I wasn't sure what to put behind my TV, and then I just layered them, and I love them.
Yeah, and some of you may have saw it on Instagram.
Yeah, we did a poll. Some of you said don't do it, but I did it anyway, and I love it. So
yeah, so that's all that matters.
We're just practicing what we preach over here.
Right. We just do what you love what you do.
That's right. Okay, so today we were talking to Jen Schmidt, and she just wrote a book called Just Open the Door. And of course, when we saw that title, we were intrigued. And so we went and found our Instagram page, and we said, oh my goodness, we have got to have this lady on the podcast.
She says all the things that we say
yes.
And better.
She says them better. Yes.
And she has a few more years under her belt. Her kids are grown. Her youngest of 5 is in high school now, and so she's got a lot of wisdom to offer. So we are so excited for you to hear this interview.
So here's Jen.
Good morning, Jen. How are you?
Hi, I am doing great. Good morning.
Would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners for today?
Sure. My name is Jen Schmidt. I am a mom of 5 children, a husband to a wonderful man named Greg. I am living currently, we've been in North Carolina for about a little over 20 years, but born and raised in Wisconsin, so we're big, huge Packer fans. I have been writing at a blog called Balancing Beauty and Bedlam for about the last 10 years. So I am a completely open book. There are no questions that you can ask that I will not answer. And I am a new author of the book, Just Open the Door, How One Invitation Can Change a Generation. So my heart beats very passionately for welcoming people into our home, our hearts, our stories.
Okay, so first of all, we love the title of your book because I feel like it is right along our alley of what we're constantly preaching and saying and trying to live out in our own lives. And you are in a stage that my family is just now entering. And I'm so curious to hear how you have practically made this happen for your family, having teenagers, and now you have adult children, and how have you made your home a place where you're the place that all the teenagers go, you're the place that they want to hang out,
Yeah.
And how have you opened your door in that stage of life?
Well, I think for us, it started back even before I had children. So I was really fortunate to have an open door policy kind of modeled for me with my parents. And I know that not everybody has that. And so for some people, I've run across a lot of women who say, well, I didn't have it modeled. I feel so inadequate. I don't know how to do that. And one of my encouragements is just our legacy starts today. You know, leave the past in the past and start anew. And so exciting what kind of opening your door, whole concept of open door living can do. And so even when I was single and then got married, I really wanted our home to be that place where people felt welcome and loved and could just kind of, come as they were. And so that kind of morphed. As kids, I wanted to make sure that I was one of the places that when my friends come over, that it was always absolutely, you don't even have to ask. Now, obviously, sometimes I need to ask, but I want our children to know that our place was somewhere where they could really feel safe to invite their friends.
Right. And you talked about how you grew up in a home that had that type of open door policy. So how would you describe your home as a child?
I mean, it was very warm and welcoming, and I didn't really know that this was out of the ordinary, which I love. I just thought everybody did that. So we would have people living with us. We had missionaries live with us. We had actually people who, some young kids who were literally kicked out of their home and told, you're not welcome. And they were welcome in our house. We had a man who was struggling through drug addiction and was on the other side of it. And my parents welcomed him in. So now, obviously, if I'm encouraging people to take that baby step to invite people over, not start there, right? But my point being is that because that's what I saw modeled, I didn't know it was any different. And so I saw our home really as a vehicle. It was not a museum. It was a place where people were welcome. And so that is kind of was inbred in me. And I viewed our house that way. Now, for those people who think my mom is kind of more the orderly, like, the old quote, like everything has its place. And I'm afraid that would have been part of my legacy, but it's not. I am a type Z person. So, I've got friends that are type A, everything together. I am loosey-goosey, like fly by the seat of my pants. So if some of the listeners think, well, you've got to be organized and you have to have like your house perfect. No, I am living proof that you can have clutter in a corner and you can put a tablecloth and a candle on that stack of Rubbermaid. I always make sure like my bathroom and my kitchen are all clean. So it's never dirty, but it's definitely lived in. I like to think of it as cozy,
homey.
Well, we've said multiple times on here that there's a certain level of like dirty that is uncomfortable. So maybe avoid that. But there's also a certain level of clean that can be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And people come in and it's too perfect. So.
Well, and that's the thing. I think, when I think of the whole theme behind Just Open the Door, it is kind of this, imperfect hospitality. And I think, unfortunately, we are now in a stage where we have Instagram and Pinterest and all the web design out there. And so we've kind of allowed social entertaining to hijack the heart of what hospitality truly is. We have this preconceived notion when we hear the word hospitality, we start thinking like long, lingering dinner, 4-course meals and beautiful tablescapes and, better homes and gardens. And while some of my friends, that's their love language and they have this gift of just beauty and creativity. And I'm like, hey, when you do those kind of parties, invite me over. That's not the normal. Like, I want to encourage women in a legacy of hospitality, that hospitality is just not a one and done event. It's not this, invite people and work hard for a whole month to throw this big, huge party and then it's done. I want people to see hospitality as something that is part of their way of life. And if we see it as so much work where we're overthinking and overanalyzing and overplanning, then that idea of just opening the door in our everyday life doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What would you say that hospitality looked like when you were single before you got married? Because you mentioned that you had an open door policy then too. And I know we have a lot of people who listen who are still in that stage of life.
Yep. Well, I realize, when you're single, at least for me, I wanted a sense of connection and it was easy for me to get isolated. And I think no matter what the stage of life, people, we want to connect, right? Women's heart ache for a sense of community and connection. But a lot of times we're afraid to initiate. We're afraid to be the one to put ourselves out there because, whatever, it could be fear of rejection. It could be past friend wounds. There's any number of excuses that we can make. And so I realized I was waiting for people to do the inviting. And if I wanted to create a culture in my own life of community and connection, I needed to stop waiting and I needed to start pursuing friendships and initiating. And so that's what I started doing. I would just have, potlucks where everyone just brings snacks, or, a movie night or a game night. And it's kind of funny, and I wrote about it in the book. I'm not going to say this is going to work for everybody, but I actually met my husband because I opened the door, and literally to my apartment, a complete stranger. 25 years later, I'm pretty glad that I had like this desire to connect friends.
I love that.
I
I need to hear a little bit more about that story.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. Well, so it was New Year's Day, and, like any single women, New Year's Eve, I wanted to go out with my girlfriends. I didn't want to host a party. I wanted to be free to pop around. So I decided that I was going to invite my closest friends, like about a group of 10 or 15 of us that kind of would hang out together. And so I decided to do a New Year's Day brunch. I always recommend, when people are worried about food, do brunches, because there's low stress. Everyone loves breakfast food, right? Or you can do breakfast for dinner if you want to be fun. And so I knew everyone, and literally I was in my pajamas, no makeup on. I had a ponytail sticking out of the top of my head because these were all my friends that I did life with. And I'm very much of a like, come as you are, take me as you are kind of a person. Well, his roommate called right as the brunch was starting and said, my roommate, he's an accountant. Okay, so you have this stereotype of
right.
And he worked on New Year's Eve, and he's going back into the office and basically has no social life. Can he just come over for some food? And then he's going into the office. So I was taking pity. I feel pretty like the power of food is a pretty magical thing. So I said, sure, bring this poor guy over and I feed him before he goes in the office. Well, he walked up my apartment stairs and walked in, and I was like, he looks like no accountant I ever met. And I quick ran to the bathroom. Now, it would have been too obvious to change out of my flannel pajamas, so I had to keep them on. But, I mean, girls, I put mascara on. I put some lip gloss on, needless to say, he ended up staying 5 hours and did not go into the office. Helped close down that brunch. So the rest is history. I've been feeding them ever since.
That's awesome. If you feed them, they will come.
Exactly.
And you have 3 boys, correct? 3 boys,
yeah, 3 boys and 2 girls.
Okay. I have 4 boys, and I say that I feel like that's going to be the ticket for the rest of their lives for their friends. To get them to want to be at my house is just feed them.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what I love? When people, especially moms, if they're nervous about starting, like, where do I start with opening the door? Start with your kids' friends. And I have a lot of women who say, well, I am lonely and I want connection, but I don't know where to start because I don't have a circle of friends. Start with your kids. Start with their moms. Start with your kids' circle of influence. Because I know for me now, having gone through 4 teenagers, raised 4 teenagers, and now in our 5th teenager, you want to be the mom who knows the kids' friends, because it's an inner working into their heart. It's an inner knowledge of where they stand. Maybe if they get into, I learned a lot about some of the bad choices my teenage boys were getting into by feeding their friends. All of a sudden I started realizing, okay, this is maybe not the best group of kids. How can we encourage these boys in our home, but that fine line? And so we've made a lot of wonderful friends by including families and starting, with their circle of influence.
Mm-hmm. Right, because I know for me as a parent with my kids, whoever they're friends with, I want to know their parents too.
Absolutely.
Not that if I don't approve of a parent that my kid can't be their friend, but they're not spending the night with them, and I want to know where these kids come from just so I know how to love them better.
Exactly. We've had just some of in fact, the subtitle of Just Open the Door is How One Invitation Can Change a Generation. And it started with us loving on the football team and having guys who, most of them didn't come from intact families. Most of them didn't have any father figures in our life. And every weekend they just started sleeping over and eating at our house. And one of the boys, his life has been completely changed. He, started going to church with us. He named Jesus as Lord. And now when I look at how just me saying, hey, come join us at the table. You can sleep on my thrift store sofa, how that invitation, and not anything fancy. It was literally just me saying, I'm willing and I'm available. Use our door as a vehicle, however, as I was praying, however God sees fit. And now all these years later, this guy's family tree has been completely changed because he wrote a little portion in the book, and he said he'd never been in a, gospel-centered family before. So I know that as women start using their door to welcome others in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, they're going to be able to look back and have similar stories of how their gift of an invitation, just one invitation. You don't have to start with 20 women around the table. It can start with just one person, life on life, a life-giving invitation. And I'm excited to hear the stories of people who, lean into that, what those next chapters are going to look like.
The advice that you gave about just inviting one person in, I was thinking for someone who struggles more with that, it can be someone that you like.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be like, I met this stranger and I want to be your friend, so I'm going to invite her in. Like, practice with someone who you like and just have them over.
It's been so neat already just to hear the stories that are coming back from introverts. Because when I wrote this book, I did not want hospitality in the title at all because, like I said previously, we have a preconceived notion and people assume that they either have a gift of hospitality or they don't. And that is a big, big, huge lie because we are created to have connection and community. And so, for those who read the Bible, Romans talks about like pursuing hospitality. It's something that is for every person, every man, every woman to pursue invitation. And so I didn't want hospitality in the title. And another reason is I had all of my introvert friends in mind when I was writing this because I wanted them to experience freedom. I wanted them, that song, Fear is a Liar, for so many introverts or, even if you feel a little socially awkward, there's such fear and vulnerability that is laced in the thought of opening your door. And I'm not talking about just opening the door as far as inviting people into our home. We know it's a super vulnerable place because our home tells a story. And we're not inviting, we're inviting people maybe for fear of judgment. There's a fear of comparison because our house isn't as good as somebody else, but we're also inviting people into our stories and our life. And I don't know about you, but my life is messy. My closets are messier. Throw everything into the closet and pray that people don't think it's the bathroom because everything's going to fall out on their head. And so that's what I encourage women is just start with one simple invitation and cross over that because when I'm hearing now women who, it could bring me to tears, the number of women who've read the book now and said, I haven't invited anyone over for 3, 4, 5 years. And they listed the number of reasons. And we all have them, right? Even the extroverts have those reasons. But once they stepped over and took that little baby step, it's like these chains that have been keeping them hostage in their own house have been released. And now, every woman has a choice. They can either stay as a hostage in their own home and allow fear to cripple them, or they can step into this role of hosting. And it's been so amazing for me just to hear women whose lives are being shifted because they didn't realize how much life they were missing out on.
Yeah. And I'm not naturally one to say, let's just open our home up. And I struggled for a lot of years. It stresses me out. I get big time anxiety. If I find out someone's coming over unexpectedly, it like throws me into a panic. Like I just...
Not just you, most people.
Yeah. And what I've learned throughout the years is that you just the best thing for me was when we started hosting a small group every week, because it was like people are coming every week and I know they're coming every week. And then, just throughout the years, we've had people live with us. And all of those things have been a stretch, but it's always been a stretch that's pushed me to be more loving to my neighbor, a push that's made me more, I think, like Jesus, a push that has taken me out of myself, that is very much like I could close off and never talk to anybody and just have my little family and just never leave the house and be happy. But I know that that's not fulfilling the purpose of my life. And so I echo with what you're saying of, you just start with one time. You just do it. You just have somebody in. And what you start to realize is like, well, no one even really said anything about the decoration, other than good things.
Right.
Oh, if someone said anything, it was good. And so I was stressed about that. And no one seemed to care that I served pizza. So maybe I shouldn't have to worry about that.
You speak to something good about how you just started doing it. It becomes muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
When you start opening your door, it is always going to be nerve-wracking as you step into this new legacy. But it's like anything. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. You start becoming less anxious because it becomes almost more of a habit.
Right.
And people don't believe me when they say that, but once they start getting past that, they realize you're right. It's muscle memory. Or, start with the same recipe. If you're having them for dinner, do the same recipe over and over so you're not stressing about the food, or order pizza, or, and if you still are really anxious and haven't gotten to the place where you feel that you can invite them into your house, I have a whole chapter on taking your hospitality on the go, because it's not just about the place. It's not just about in your home. It is the whole heart of hospitality. And so for us, I kind of talked about football. I see one of our greatest launching pads for Kingdom Ministry occurred on the sidelines of the football field, where I initially was so busy, maxed out with our schedule. I had a chip on our shoulder because I'm very much about wanting margin and guarding our family time. And I saw that sports for this season had kind of taken over our life. And it was almost as if the Lord kind of said, hey, Jen, stop complaining, get over yourself, and look to the left and right of you on the sidelines, because I have brought women from every socioeconomic background, every political background, every nation, and they need to feel welcome and they need to feel loved, and just start inviting them. And so I had a whole new perspective on hospitality. And I started, instead of like just having my head in a magazine or going and doing all of my, errands,
Right.
I started approaching those 2 hours that were already on my schedule with purpose. And I brought a blanket. I started packing extra snacks, and I started inviting women to join me on the blanket, which essentially was my makeshift table. And I have so many beautiful memories. Now it's been 15 years later. Our son played Division I football all the way through. I was, if you could kind of call it, like a team mom, if they have that in Division I football. I had the opportunity to still bring my hospitality on the road, and I organized all the tailgates, and I organized times to meet when we were in hotels, and I welcomed people into our hotel room. Look at, kind of expand your view of hospitality, and look and see your schedule right now. Open up your calendar and see where your schedule is taking you today. And what can you do? Like, think of it in terms of +1, not like you need a date for a wedding, but adding +1 new conversation, initiating one gesture of kindness. What can you do today with your already busy schedule to extend this hospitality and welcome? It might be in the line at the grocery store. It might be just like someone that you don't know, your checkout person who is always treated like trash, and maybe really valuing them and encouraging them. I think we underestimate those small gestures of kindness that are lost because everybody's on their phone, everyone's in a rush, and we just don't know what that can do too.
Right.
Speaking of being in the checkout line, if you go similar times of day to the same stores, we always try and get in the same line. And it's so easy to remember their names because they wear them on a tag.
Yes.
So if you call them by name, eventually their eyes light up and they're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. I remember you too. And thank you for, saying hello to me.
And acknowledging that I'm a person.
And you develop a relationship.
You do. You really do. Another person is your mail person. They come at the same time every day. You can always predict when they're coming. Mm-hmm. You can be outside and catch them, and they love for you to talk to them because people usually look right over them. You'll see some people stand by the mailbox, wait on them to drop the mail, and then grab it out and never say anything.
Mm-hmm. Is more the norm. And it makes my heart so sad because, again, we just underestimate the power that's simple kindness. How sad that we even have to have this conversation, right? But I was a waitress for 7 years, and I can't even tell you how horrible people treat waitresses. Right. And so, if you go out to eat, look at that person with value and treat them with honor and tip them well. Those little things, I think we can make such an impact on people if we just shift others focused rather than self-focused, right?
Yes.
Just how can we meet the need of another today? Because we are that person that God has placed in their path, whether it's a stranger or our neighbor who maybe we don't know very well. How can we step back and say, how can I serve that neighbor today? And sometimes it takes vulnerability and sometimes it takes humbling ourselves, because I think even in this culture of neighboring, statistics show we don't know our neighbors. Right. And we might have waved to our neighbors for a year and never had a conversation. And it might mean the next time you see them raking their leaves, you walk across the street and just humbly go first and say, you know what? I'm so sorry. I haven't taken the time to get to know you. We'd love to change this. Tomorrow night, we're going to throw some extra burgers on the grill. Why don't you come join us at our picnic table? And it can start with something very simple. But when we talk about the great commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind and strength, but love your neighbors. Mm-hmm. Let's think super literally. Mm-hmm. Do you even know your neighbor? Do you know the people that are living, in your general vicinity? And so if you don't know where to start there.
Right. I love one of the things that you talked about with doing root beer floats, that's something that you encourage. Our big thing. Because how many root beer floats can you make for, $20?
It's easy. And it can start as something like have your kids go around with a little invitation and do a root beer float party in your driveway. It does not have to be anything big and glamorous. In fact, most people will love that even better because it takes away the pressure that maybe they have to give 4 hours to a whole dinner. But if you say, hey, stop by anytime, Saturday, 5 to 7, 6 to 8, whatever, we're going to do root beer floats for the neighborhood or the cul-de-sac or whoever. Who's not going to take you up on that? It can be as simple as, pulling in the driveway and just walking across the street. But you can start really shifting how your neighborhood, community and culture is by just doing little things like that.
And if you do have kids, that's teaching them right from the start how easy it is to do those things. And they won't even know what it is to just drive into your garage, shut the door, and never speak to your neighbors,
Exactly. And it starts for those with kids. It starts with the modeling, and there's so much in hospitality that is building into the character and the culture of our children. I know when our kids were little, so when they were your kids' age, you are going to quickly see how selfish your kids are when you have a lot of other kids. All of a sudden, your angel child, does not want to share toys or does not want to give someone their favorite doll to take care of. And so those are opportunities if we're being authentic mothers and realizing that our kids have flaws. I think having people in your home is one of the greatest ways that we can identify character issues that we need to work on with our kids. And don't be embarrassed to admit it. Just be like, oh, okay, that our son is talking sassy to that other little kid. And you don't need to address it necessarily don't do it in front, but it's the opportunity to talk through and say, how can we deal with that the next time? My daughter's, who's 18 and is she's an introvert, but she is the most hospitable and warm woman now. Oh, she's a woman. But when she was little, she would hide behind my legs. And I said, you know what? There's nothing wrong with having a shy child, but you don't want to make that an excuse for being rude. How often do we excuse our kids? They're rude. And we're like, oh, so sorry. They're just shy. No, don't allow that. Even if you've got the shyest child around, they can still learn direct eye contact. They can still learn how to look at a guest in the eyes and shake their hands and smile and say, nice to meet you. And when we do it within the context of our own home, they're in a familiar place anyhow. So I find that it's just been a beautiful process for me to watch our daughter go from hiding behind people's legs to now she is that person who searches out that lonely person in the corner or that person that's by themselves. She has empathy because she identified it in her own heart and now wants to, make the difference for other people.
We do host a small group, and that is like ripping off the Band-Aid with your kids for the sharing and stuff like that. But I know when we first got married, we didn't feel ready to host a small group. And what my husband and I did was on Tuesday nights, we just invited a couple over.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So you can start like that. If you're thinking, I don't want to lead a Bible study or have a big group each week, you can just say, we're setting aside Tuesday. I knew on Tuesday I needed to be home from work at a certain time. My house needed to be picked up, and I had to have something planned for dinner. And it was what it was, and it wasn't a big deal.
We do a little portion at the end of our interviews called Love It or Leave It. And we're just going to throw out some things, and you're going to say, love it or leave it. And we thought that it might be fun to do some current fashion things with you.
Okay, well, little known fact you didn't know, I do not call myself a fashion guru, but for years, the reason my blog got so big years ago is because I started on Fridays doing Frugal Fashionista. I was the very first Frugal Fashionista out there where I would do all fashion that I got secondhand, thrift store, designer outfits on a budget. So it's still people's favorite. Every once in a while, I put it up on Instagram, but I get emails every week. When are you bringing back your Frugal Fashionista? So
love that.
Yeah. I know a little about fashion, but normally it's like a season behind fashion, right?
Right. Okay, so overalls.
Overalls. Oh, gosh. See, now I can't do a love it or leave it because it depends on the body type. It depends on how flattering it is.
Well, what about for you?
For me, I'd leave it. I have some, but I'd leave it. My girls would say I was trying too hard.
Yeah. That's where I am right now with a lot of things. My 14-year-old is like, what are you wearing, Mom? And I'm like,
but a jumpsuit I would do.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Love
the
jumpsuit, leave the overalls.
Okay. How about high-waisted pants and shorts?
Oh, they're coming back.
They're back, yeah.
And they cover the muffin top that I have.
They do.
They do. So depending on what shirt, I could love it depending.
My issue with the high-waisted pants is not so much the front as it is the back.
Yeah,
I feel like everybody has mom butt. Even if you're like really cute and young, like your butt looks this long.
But do you know the kids that are like 10 years younger than me, their moms didn't do the mom jeans because they were not around in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And so they don't have the aversion to the mom jean.
Maybe. That's
Whereas me, I'm like, I cannot become my mom's mom jean.
I joke about mom jeans. So I don't have any high-waisted, but I've seen some really cute, like 20-something-year-old girls that are like 110 pounds rock those high-waisted.
That is true.
What about bell bottoms?
Oh, love it. Love it. I still have some that I rock and they look good. And my teenage girls' friends are like, oh, that looks so cute with those boots. So I'll do it.
Yes. And the flare is back this year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the flare jeans are very back.
What about distressed, like the heavy distressed pants?
I love it. I do. Now heavy, I mean, I'm not going to do where it's ripped from the shin to the thigh.
Right.
You know,
where the pocket hangs out and
yeah. But I definitely have distressed jeans. Makes me feel very hip, very young. I like them. I roll them up with some really cute boots.
You're cute. How cute you are, Jen. Okay, crop tops.
Oh, no, never. Leave it. And not just for me, but for your cute daughters.
Yes.
Leave it.
Look, we ran into
Even more so, because if it's on me, it's not an issue for anybody except people laughing at me.
Even if I have a bikini body, I would not wear it. I mean, now it would be horrifying because my muffin top would be all hidden out. But I have a daughter who can rock the crop top. And if you let her brothers see that, oh my goodness, she would be in so much trouble. No, we don't. Let's leave, especially because, well, I'm not going to get on my high horse. I will get on a soapbox, but just leave some mystery in your wardrobe.
Yes.
I'm very much about being fashionable and modest at the same time.
Yes.
So,
last thing, how about Ray-Bans?
well, my boys have some, but see, I'm frugal. You're talking to a frugal mom. I am about investing in quality and, different things. But Ray-Bans, it depends, because sunglasses, they get lost so easily. And that is a lot of money. So one of our sons has a pair. He has taken very good care of it, but he also bought them out of his own money. So I would leave it.
Well, Jen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining in our bedlam over here.
I
And
felt right at home.
for anyone who doesn't follow you currently, can you tell them where to find you on the internet?
Sure. I would say the first place I am is Instagram, Jen Schmidt _ Beauty and Bedlam. My blog is beautyandbedlam.com. And I'm going to try and get back to writing there more. I mean, I have 10 years of posts, so there is plenty to read on everything: mothering, fashion, finance, recipes, meal planning, heart and home. So I also host the Becoming Conference every year, and it's all things purposeful, frugal, and creative, and it's super fun. So you can find out more about that at thebecomingconference.com.
And we saw you had Dana White this year, and she was one of our favorite guests. Everybody loved listening to her.
Oh, I love her. I hope she can come back next year. I think she's going to. I hope if the date works. So
that's awesome. And tell about your book.
Oh, yes. And it's Just Open the Door: How One Invitation Can Change a Generation. And it is sold wherever books are, online, in stores, Lifeway, Dayspring, Barnes & Noble. And the best compliment is everybody who starts reading it assumes they know what it's about. And they said 4 chapters in, it's nothing that they imagined. And it speaks to a lot of different themes of just women that women deal with on a day-to-day basis. So
thank you so much for talking with us. We really appreciate it. And we're excited to keep following along because everything you post, we echo it. We agree. 100%.
Thanks, lady.
All right, thanks. Bye.
We hope that you guys were so encouraged by our chat with Jen. We think that she has really great things experiences and things to encourage you in hospitality, and we were super encouraged.
Yes. One thing that my family is going to implement is we may do Coke floats. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
Or we may even splurge and let people choose what kind of drink they want.
Right, do a few
their
different
cheap
kinds.
ice cream. But we're going to do something like that, whether it's Coke floats or popcorn, I'm not sure. But our girls were really excited about the idea of getting to invite people just to stop by.
Yeah.
And the thought of them not having to come in the house and have dinner, that's awkward for them too if they don't know you. And so it feels like a much better in-between invitation.
Yeah, like an entry-level type thing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked about with Jen was even when you're out and about, loving the people around you. And this week I had such a great real-life example of this in particular, because like we said, we try to be really mindful of people as we come in contact with them. And there's a worker at Target in the bakery when we lived in West Mobile that I saw on a regular basis. He helped me when I was there for a last minute birthday cake, and he wrote on them for me and fixed them. And anyway, I just always tried to make a point to seek him out, say hello, And that was really it. Well, I ran into him. He now works at Whole Foods, and it's been over a year since I saw him. And he spotted me across the store, and his face lit up and said, "I'm so excited to see you," and was asking how we were doing. And it was such a great conversation, but also a great reminder that I had not done anything really special for him. I literally just went a couple of seconds and said, like, "How are you? How was your day?" That kind of thing. And that it made that much of an impact, honestly, is kind of sad.
Right. It's because nobody they just look past people.
Just overlooks people. And so that's just an encouragement to you, because I had a real life example of that even just the other day, of like, it makes a difference when you actually see people and you do small things, even just your kind words in love, it makes a difference.
And in saying that, we get how hard it is, like, whenever you're running through the grocery store or whatever, that you have 1,000 things on your mind, because we do too.
Right.
And we usually have 1,000 kids with us
Yes.
too. And so we get that, like, what we're saying, it doesn't sound easy, but I promise once you change your mindset, it is.
Yeah. And so our encouragement to you this week is to see the people around you. And we've said this before because we feel very passionate about this, but like, see people and go out of your way. I mean, even just enough to like look someone in the eyes and ask them how they're doing, and realize that it really can make the difference in a person's day. And also think of what's one small thing you can do, one small invite that you can make to your neighbors or to a couple in your life or friends or whatever that looks like, and do something. Whether it's today or whether it's this week, we encourage you to do something.
Just as a reminder, on Instagram, we have a hashtag. It is Where I Nestle. And we got so excited watching you guys post that this week. So thank you to everyone who did that. We can tell that there are some people posting who we aren't following and their accounts are private, so we can't see your photos. And so if that is you and we aren't following you yet, send us a message and let us know so we can follow along, and then we can see your photos that way.
Right. And you can find us on Instagram at Nestle Podcast if you don't follow us yet. And you can find us online at poshnestdesigns.com. We look forward to being back with you guys next week.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.